Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Norfolk Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for Wednesday, December 21st, 2022. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law with the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 20, notice is hereby given that the Zoning Board of Appeals shall be physically closed to the public and will meet via Zoom online video conferencing this evening at 7 o'clock. The hour being after 7 o'clock, 7:10. We have our first appointment. And I just want to remind folks that to join in, if you haven't figured it out by now, you might be a little bit late, but follow the call-in number, and please be advised that this meeting will be audio and video recorded for future rebroadcast by Norfolk Community Television. So the hour being 7:11, I think we have an appointment regarding an extension on a special permit for 10 Old Populatic Way. I don't know if the applicant is available on Zoom this evening.
The applicant was supposed to be on Zoom. He has the link. I know he had planned on, he was going to attend. I don't see him in the waiting room.
Okay, did he submit did the applicant submit an application before us?
He submitted an email request to extend it
Okay,
for the 1 year. Was going to, well, actually it has expired. In discussion,
if we want, we can just hold it and see if he comes on. We'll let him speak towards it if he wants to.
sure.
We have only a few things on the agenda anyway, so we'll hold that. And maybe he'll get on and present his case. We also have the vote to grant the extension on the fire station. I think there was some correspondence or already the request in the packet. So we have a request for time extension by the applicant. This is regarding the fire station request for the special permit and variance for 117 Main Street. They've submitted a request that they release the extension of time for the ZBA to act. And that was filed on 11/30/2022. And it was acknowledged by the ZBA on December 1, 2022. As everyone recalls, we were waiting for town meeting. Town meeting passed the zoning bylaw change. And I think really the purpose of this is to wait for the Attorney General to approve that zoning bylaw change, probably in January or February. I'm not sure the time on that. So rather than have this application require a vote one way or the other, they were nice enough to extend the time for us to act. So we may not have to act on this at any time. In any event, we have a release from them, or at least a request to extend the time. Do we need a vote on this, or Rich?
I would recommend a vote on it.
Okay, so then why don't we have a roll call vote?
Okay.
Ti-
Tim Martin.
Yeah, Tim Martin, yes to request the extension for time.
Okay. Chris Metcalf.
Yes.
Courtney Starling. Courtney, you're muted. Oh,
Yes, sorry, I was acting, but not fast enough.
And David Axberg.
Yes.
And just to add to that, this would extend the time to March 31st, 2023 to act, which is written into the request. Thank you. Next, we have town planner updates. I think, Rich, if you want to get into the master plan, or more in particular into the sign bylaw.
Sure. So first, in terms of the master plan, today was actually town tour day with MAPC. We toured around town Norfolk, looking at various important locations in town, and MAP staff, which represented land use planners, transportation planners, public health, arts and culture. We toured around town. We had the planning board. Actually, we had 4 of the planning board members in attendance. and we got to go around graciously by Holmes Bus Company. They donated the bus for us to be able to tour around as one group. So I was very grateful to them to do that for us, so we could all be together and talk as we were driving around. The planning board will be putting out a request for citizen volunteers per precinct coming up. Hopefully that should probably be posted next week on the town website. And then at the planning board meeting on January 10th, they'll be discussing in terms of what other boards or committees would like to have sit on the master plan steering committee. The base of the master plan steering committee will be the planning board in its entirety. And then they're gonna add citizens plus other boards and committees. In terms of really public engagement with the master plan, it won't be till at least February, March timeframe.
So if somebody wants to be considered to be part of that, how should they go about that?
So the flyer that will be posted, they could just email me and then I'll start collecting names in terms of citizens per precinct. And then forward them on to the planning board. And perhaps we get a full complement, at least one per precinct, for the meeting in January, and even more, hopefully we have more than one or two people. And then if that ends up being the case, then, you know, I'm sure the planning board would want to invite them to the meeting to talk to them and see, you know, in terms of their interest. But I also think we would, if we had more citizens, I would encourage them just to stay along anyway, even though they might not necessarily technically have a citizen spot on the steering committee, because I don't want to turn around. We don't want to turn away people that are interested. I mean, that's the bottom
Great.
line. In so much as the planning board could consider to expand the committee even more to add those citizens. So we're going to kind of play it by ear.
Good.
Well, at least at the moment, it's one per precinct. And then switching over to the sign bylaw, I put it in your packet to take a look at it in terms of some changes to it. Essentially, the changes are focused around adding, so let me back up a little bit. The Norfolk Small Business Association, sorry, had reached out to the planning board after, this is actually in the fall of 21, when there, if you recall, there was the proposal to add the signage for the town to do the public announcement signs that would be illuminated. But it was only for the town of Norfolk at the time. And there was pushback to just keep it, or just limit it to the town, not have it available for businesses. And so after that town meeting in the fall, there's been, although it's a while now, believe it or not, 21, some of the planning board members have met with the Small Business Administration to talk about signage, types of signage, designs of signage, and what they would like to see. And there was a more recent meeting in October, just a month or two ago. And so the packet that's in your on the share drive for the signage is kind of, the approach would be kind of scale it up, not a comprehensive sign changes, but there's a menu there which basically to allow for what we call projecting signs. Some towns call them blade signs. You know, we don't allow that type of sign. There was interest from the businesses to be able to have those signs, which just projects out from the building. Another sign that, while you will see them around town, we call them sandwich boards. Technically, they're not allowed in the zoning, in the sign bylaw, but that was another sign that they're interested in having available to them. And there is some, well, I didn't invent the wheel here. I went from other towns that have sandwich board signs and put in some provisions to, you know, in terms of location, sizes, so forth, materials. And then the larger one, I would say, would be allow for internal illumination. So that's something that we don't presently allow. However, that would be through a special permit process for now. I know that, we're not a community that has, lit signs. They're all externally illuminated. So to kind of roll it out, this approach is being considered. And the planning board they took a look at it briefly at the last meeting in December. The ZBA certainly like to have you take a look. I'm not expecting you to have comments per se. You can certainly write them in between now and the planning board meeting, which will be January 10th. They're going to need to kind of consider what they want to roll forward, not roll forward, and then based on that, work towards submitting the article to town meeting, and they would hold a public hearing in March on the changes
Okay.
in terms of the sign code. And then the other one is the schedule of use regulations. I know I presented to you a while ago. It was significantly thicker in terms of what was there. And content wise, and in discussing with town council, what we're trying to do is kind of condense it down a little bit more, accomplishing the same goal, which is taking the uses that are in the B1, C1, C4, C6, and merge them into one table. And then the second part of that would be to condense down and organize into maybe one or two definitions for uses instead of having, well, there's multiple ones. And literally, if you look, as you look through the article, if it had restaurant and it had an S on the end, that was one way we could call it, or an office was office or offices. So it looks a little bit, obviously it's pretty large. But to do it more simply, so the first article would be substantive changes, we'll merge them all together. And you can see I would highlight it in yellow was the uses were coming from the sub districts going into the table. And then the other there's a few other provisions there where we have to clean housekeeping, but then the second one is to then condense it down further. So office, I forget what we have just top of my head, but there's like restaurant. So now there'll be restaurant, takeout restaurant, fast food restaurant, instead of, I think we have like 8 different ways to say restaurant. And similarly to other uses. And so the goal with that, same thing, although a little more aggressive goal with that, the plan would be for hopefully the planning board at the January 10th meeting, vote to put that on the warrant. We'll also vote to hold a hearing in February. So the big picture goal is to try to get on the warrant in final form, have the public hearing. So then as the advisory committee starts to look at the warrant and the articles, the public hearing process, the vetting of the final language is all set in stone. So it's not as, we've had in the past, some of the draft languages changed, and then it worked out where the public hearing was in process. So they were looking at stuff before the hearing was. So trying to clean up as much as we can in terms of process too. So.
Yeah, I think if a lot of it's cleaned up prior to the town meeting, it'll go a long way.
Yes. And then hopefully then nobody feels as if there's any surprises coming. At least they've seen it well in advance. So please take a look at that. Now, if a bunch of comments come in and we need to do more work, we always have that pivot point where we can adjust things too. So, but that's at least the plan of attack. So we want to do I'm suggesting the planning board not do signage and table the same night for the public hearing, so it's more focused. However, if we need to do more work on the table, we could do it all in March too. So, I mean,
okay.
And then, so that's those 2 topics. So I did want to say before, if you don't mind, before I go, well, there is an update. I do want to update the board, which is not a very, I'm not happy. I'm very saddened to tell you that Fisher Hashem, who, as you all know, part of Stonebridge Development, had multiple projects in town. He has passed away from an accidental death. He was doing something that he loves in terms of being, he's an avid spearfisherman. And yeah, we learned of this unfortunately last week. And so I send my regards to him and his family. And I don't have, tonight, I don't have any information in terms of there'll be services or anything of that nature at this point. However, once we're aware of those, I will share them with the board. If you like to send a card or attend, I'm not sure what those might be, but it was a you know, obviously a more enormous shock to him and his family, but it was quite shocking for us to hear that too, as well.
Well,
So
if you
we've
keep us
done
updated.
more with what's his name? Just recently.
True.
Basher.
Yeah. Yeah. So you his Owen,
Owen? Yeah.
which actually you may not know this, but that's his son-in-law as well. So it's
Oh wow. Wow.
so it hits him in two different ways, I guess. So
Sure. Sure.
So, but I just wanted to, make the board aware of it. And like I said, Fisher, he has, so you're right, David. I mean, Owen's done more as of more recently.
Yeah.
But he was more front and center on some of the older, certainly Boyd's Crossing, Norfolk, not station, but the village at Norfolk. And so anyway, I just wanted to pass that along to the board.
You haven't heard if that changes any workings on any of those projects at this point or anything, have you?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I mean, I shouldn't say, so what I have heard, at least secondhand, is that Owen would presume more of the responsibilities from Fisher, and then one of his lead folks who does a lot of the construction, we might see him more often on the construction side. He does construction already for them, but he might take a more active role in terms of, interaction with the board on the permits.
Okay.
So they have and they did start, if you drive down Pine Street, you'll see they started to clear for the 8-lot development that they have. They started construction on that.
Richard Walderman.
So that's, what was that?
Oh,
Okay. So that was it for my piece for this evening.
All right, well, my condolences to his family.
Rich, I did reach out to Ryan Dulac. I haven't heard back. I sent him the link again
Okay.
and an email, so I don't know if he's having problems or if he forgot about us or what. But
Well, in terms of, it's up to the board, but in speaking with town council, the board could just administratively grant them another year extension. If you recall, it was about a year ago, obviously. I'm presuming he's not ready to proceed with the project. I will say I did discuss this with Tim, just as normal updates with the board. I would like to consider making the changes to our zoning bylaw to make, the length of a special permit consistent with state statute. I mean, state statute is up to 3 years. We're a lot tighter with only a year. So it's something that I think it's worth at least investigating in the future, because, a year is not that long necessarily sometimes with these projects.
All right, so just to refresh the board's memory, and help me out here, Rich, if I don't get it right. This came before us about a year ago. Mr. Dulac sought a special permit to raise an existing house on Old Populatic Road. You may remember it was a tiny little road, and we had a few concerns about the road being so narrow, and there was a dead end and access and things like that. And I think, well, obviously at that time he addressed our concerns, and we
Yes.
made it part of the decision, so there would be notice and things like that taken care of, so it would be done with notice to the town, notice to the neighbors, and a plan to kind of get a lay down area across the street, I believe, for lack of a better term, so that if materials or trucks came in, they'd have a way to store material without blocking that tiny road. I think that was one of our major concerns when we reviewed this application. And I think Rich reminded me that it was the first time it came before me, I believe. I could be wrong, but it was something that might have been pursued prior to that. It's somewhat irrelevant now, but
Yeah, so the first go around with it, he was actually considering keeping part of the house and do a so it was part of the housekeeping and then doing a demolition, partial demolition, then rebuilding the house. That was a few years ago now, actually quite a few years ago, and then as this project has evolved, then he turned around and, I think probably maybe thinking about it overall, how to do the project, became a full demolition reconstruction, excuse me, within the same footprint.
does any of the board members have any questions? Elaine, is there anybody from the public on Zoom?
No, there's no one on Zoom.
No, I don't
Special,
have any questions.
the special permit is in the shared drive, I believe,
It
if
is.
you want to look at it.
Okay. Does somebody
And it
want
was,
to-
I think it was December 1st that it expired, I believe.
Does somebody want to make a motion to extend the special permit for another year?
I will. I make a motion to extend the special permit for, I think it's 10 Populatic. For another year from the date that we had originally done it. So we're going to 2 years instead of a 1 year.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? Elaine, why don't we do a roll call vote since we're on Zoom?
Okay. Courtney Starling,
Yes. Oh, I need to say my name too, don't I? Courtney Starling, yes.
Tim Martin,
Tim Martin, yes to grant.
Chris Metcalf,
Chris Metcalf, yes.
and David Axberg.
David Axberg, yes to grant.
Thank you. We have meeting minutes.
Yep, Joe did look them over, and he approved them. I'm trying to think, what was his change? I sent them out pretty quickly because our last meeting was relatively short.
Right. These are the minute meetings from November 16th, 2022.
Yes. Oh, I know what it was. On the deliberations, the second page, we just wrote out yes to grant next to each of your names. I guess that's the way it was previously done, so we're going to follow that again.
Okay,
And that was the only change otherwise.
all right. So can we get a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for November 16th. With only one change.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that. Chris Metcalf.
Is there any discussion? Roll call vote.
Courtney Starling,
Courtney Starling, yes.
Tim Martin,
Tim Martin, yes.
Chris Metcalf,
Chris Metcalf, yes.
David Axberg,
David Axberg, yes.
Thank you. I know there was some correspondence of a notice of a violation regarding 4 Village Green. I don't believe there's anything before the board on that to act on this evening. I think there was a notice given to a resident on potential use violation. Hopefully that will get resolved. And I think we would just put on notice on that. Is that correct, Rich?
That is, yes.
Okay. Is there any other business, Rich or Elaine, that we have to attend to this evening?
Want to have you just vote on your 2023 schedule?
Oh, sure.
Right.
So typically what we do is we meet the third Wednesday of each month. So should we just vote it that way, or are we looking for date specific?
No, the third Wednesday is fine.
Okay, so,
I think I sent out to everybody the dates.
Yeah,
You did.
Yeah, you did.
okay, so can we get a motion to approve the meeting schedule for 2023? Being the third Wednesday of each month?
I make a motion to accept the meeting schedule of the third Wednesday of each month, starting in January, January 18th.
Very good. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Chris Metcalf.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote.
Courtney Starling,
Courtney Sterling, yes.
Tim Martin,
Tim Martin, yes to accept that.
Chris Metcalf,
Chris Metcalf accepts, yes.
David Axberg.
David Axberg, yes to accept.
Okay. I don't have any other agenda items. Does anybody have any other items that they want to bring up tonight or that I missed? Or is there anybody on Zoom from the public?
There's nobody on Zoom. Does everybody go into the town website by chance?
I have not gone into the town website in a while.
No, I haven't. Oh.
Okay.
Why? Is there
Oh,
something good going on?
Something
No,
good?
we have an updated website. That's all that we try to add notices to, and whatever. So if you ever want anything on the town website that you think is important, then let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Rich, are you still there?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to say anything about what we added or no? Any?
what do we have? Oh, I mean, the complaint line, is that what you're talking about?
Complaint line. Oh, great.
No, I think it's your birthday, and it said send gift.
Whose
Yeah,
phone number's on the
no.
complaint line?
Is
Wait,
that what you're referring to, or no?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if, I don't know.
The complaint line, a phone in its own room that just rings by itself.
Yeah,
So
the
we-
Arctic Circle, yeah.
No, if anybody doesn't like any of the board members, they get to complain. about it.
Wow.
No, I'm kidding.
No. All right. So actually, in a serious note, so we'll take the comedy out. We'll actually focus just for a moment. That's fine. That's a good idea. So, for Wade's Crossing, as part of the construction management plan, they had specified that there would be a complaint phone number, 24/7 complaint phone number available to people, and we had some complaints, and so we've kind of taken it in a different direction, which I think hopefully is better in two sense. One, so if you do, go on the website, if under the projects, you go under Wade's Cross, there is a link, and you can submit a complaint in terms of construction activity, and you fill it out, and the way it's structured is that I'll get an email, and then Tom DePlacido, who is doing the development, he will also get an email. So he's alerted to complaints that come in. So we're able to, track them, but also do follow-up, as opposed to, if we had, it would be a private phone number that the developer would have. We really wouldn't have honestly, a good way to track it, to see if things are being addressed. So it's a, technically, I guess it's a complaint line, but It's an email,
It's an update line. It's an
Complaint, it's a
update line.
complaint email, yeah.
complaint
But-
email.
Yeah, so
There is
We
no
made it.
requirement to answer it. Is that what you're saying, Rich, or not?
No, we're answering. Yeah. No,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
saying,
It sounded like you were leaving it open there.
no. I'm saying if it was a phone number, I mean, I wouldn't know. Like if you call the complaint number, it's not my number you're calling, so I wouldn't know unless I got reports. This way, you know, I get the email and I know what the complaint is, and then you know what I mean. So I know the nature of the complaint.
But there's no requirement to answer within a certain amount of time. It's just open. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
yeah, no, there's no, it doesn't
yeah,
say
it's
on
not
it
a
that they're gonna-
time. Yeah, no, it's not a timeline, but
It's
But
just
the person who puts the complaint in gets a response saying, "Hey, we've got your complaint."
Yes, they
Yeah,
do.
okay,
They do,
good.
yep.
yeah.
And then Tom wanted specifics as far as like if there was a truck or a certain time, a license plate number if possible, the name on the truck if possible. So hopefully, you know, and then we've asked for the resident's name and email. So,
Okay, good.
Yeah, so it's worked well because I mean, a few people had contacted me and they weren't aware of the construction management plan and the truck routing. So that was kind of, I mean, I would say easier to handle in terms of I forwarded them the plan. So yeah, unfortunately, the trucks are going on Lawrence Street and they're also going to go into Mill Street into Franklin. So, but you know, we have an answer, and so I just saw a complaint tonight before I got on, so we can talk to that one tomorrow.
so if you guys want to go on and complain, then we
Well-
can see how well it's working.
Test the complaint system. I got it.
Exactly.
So
No, it's a great idea.
yeah,
So, as long as it doesn't get abused, let's see if it works properly.
Yeah, see what happens, right?
Right.
yeah.
Gives people a voice and an opportunity as long as it's taken seriously.
Yeah.
Is that only for Waits Crossing?
It is only for Wade's Crossing, although I think well, because it was definitely a requirement there with the actually it was part of the permit as a requirement. But it's not to say we could do a similar thing for the other ones as well. Which
Yeah, it might be a good idea.
yeah,
You got one near you, David.
I do.
yeah.
There's
And
a
we-
lot of noise. There's a lot of noise that comes out of that one every day.
Oh, yeah, and we've gotten complaints on that one too.
Oh my,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. I mean, just the amount of rock they've had to move out of that one. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Have they taken it off site, or is it because I don't see trucking,
They're
but
they're processing it on site, actually.
yeah, you can hear that.
Yeah.
Is that all going to be used on site, or is it going to get trucked
Oh,
off?
no, we're not going to have that one again, David. That was what we argued over with on the other side.
No, they're actually
I
they're
was gonna say-
using it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
They're using it on site.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I think there's a loophole somewhat in the 40Bs that you can remove unneeded material without a special permit.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, they do request waivers from the earth removal.
Right.
Right. All right, can I have,
so
unless there's any other business, can I have a motion to close the hearing?
well, I make a motion to close the hearing and have a Merry Christmas.
Is there a second?
I'll second that one.
Okay, any discussion?
go.
All those in
Nope.
favor or roll call?
Oh, roll call.
Courtney Starling,
Courtney Starling, yes.
Tim Martin,
Tim Martin, yes, and everyone enjoy the holidays.
Yes.
Chris Metcalf,
Metcalf, yes.
and David Exberg.
Yes, and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone, for your
Before we
work throughout the year.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Right.
See you
Before we
next
shut
year.
down, I have a question. Is the next
Uh-oh.
meeting going to be on Zoom? How many meetings are we having on Zoom?
Well,
No,
we'll see
I
what the
would,
agenda-
I presume you'll be in the building in January, so.
I know I'm going to be in Utah the next
So you
meeting.
may zoom in then.
Exactly.
From a
Yeah.
ski lodge, probably.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can zoom in, but the rest of us will
Man.
be in the building.
All right. I'll try to get a good backdrop of Utah
Yeah,
for you guys.
exactly.
All right.
All right.
All right, everyone have a good
Bye,
night. Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Yep.
Good night.